Hey, Jules Plus Vegan, and as always, welcome to my channel. And for those of you who are new, I know you can benefit. What's up, y'all? I know, peeps, for those who follow me daily, I did not come yesterday, but I can tell you why. For those of you who are new, this is silent applause and sign language. I'd like to welcome you. So glad you found me. Also, if you're just here to find out about my story regarding healing my thyroid, I am about to tell it to you. But me being me, I usually give a rundown on my life for a moment because this is kind of a daily blog type thing, if you will. Anyway, so yesterday, oh my goodness, okay? Yeah, I went and taught summer school. Yay me. It was 112 degrees, 114 at one point. I came home to take my little dog to get her stitches out and her cone off, which she very much needed. So I came home to do that and saw a bunch of police next door. It's really weird. These people had moved in a while ago. The guy's a total, I had a sense that he was a con artist, you know what I mean? He was just like one of those guys with an answer for everything, and he's going to help you, and what do you need, and he can find it for you. And I was like, you don't really strike me as a go-to guy. You strike me as a troublemaker, okay? So right away he says, well, we had to pay extra on our house, so I moved a bunch of stuff from my shop up here, and I'm going to put it in the backyard. Well, in the high desert, they just use, the little metal fences all over the place. Sadly, you can see in everybody's yard. And suddenly his looked like the local junkyard, like beyond belief, okay? But I was praying about it, and I'm like, okay. Hopefully he really will get a shed and put it all away and whatever. Well, it just got worse. And then people broke into the yard and stole stuff and like on, and it just was worse and worse. And I was just like, okay. Then about a month ago, a coffin, like this beautiful coffin made out of like walnut or something. It's just sitting in the backyard. I know. I do not have a dead person in there. And why haven't I seen your wife or children lately? Praise God that was not the case, but it's been creepy, okay? You just don't expect a coffin to be hanging out in the backyard. But whatever the case was, yesterday I get home, garage doors open, police are there, there's these gigantic, I can't even think what they're called. Come on, tow trucks, but like the industrial ones, like 18-wheeler tow trucks. And they're hauling off stuff. And it turned out this guy's like stealing a ton of stuff. What? I know, dang it. Because if you remember right before then, it was being used as a drug house. And they busted it open for a drug house. I'll have to ask my numerologist sister what's up with the numbers of that house. Okay, so that went down. So then I get little Cena, I bring her to the vet, 50 billion people in the vet's office, not even kidding you. But we finally get in there. She gets her little stitches out, totally stoked, so happy. So then my husband gets home and he's like, Jules, I know I've been putting off that, what's it called again, you guys? I never know how tired I am until I get to my video. Don't tell me, hernia. But it's even more extended and in more pain, and I think we need to go to the doctor. And I'm like, sure, honey, no problem. Dying of tired, okay? So we go ahead and go to acute care. Packed beyond belief. Like, was it a full moon yesterday? I don't think so. Packed beyond belief. They tell us right away, we're not going to be getting you in tonight. Okay, we've been full since 4 o'clock. It was already 9 o'clock, at night. So then my husband's like, no, I'm kind of serious. We really need to go. So we end up driving down the hill to the actual hospital. Well, wouldn't you know that the freeway was moved over to 1 out of 5 lanes. And so what would have taken about 40 minutes took nearly 2 hours. Thank God it wasn't more of an emergency. So, of course, we get there and I'm not allowed in because of the COVID. Yes, they've relaxed COVID restrictions, but not in hospitals in certain places, right? So I'm not allowed in. So he's ending up waiting for like 3 hours. It's a mess. It looks like a war zone how many people are in there. It's insane. And he's literally standing against a wall, hoping he won't get like anything, right? So finally, at about midnight, I was like, dude, if they haven't taken your vitals yet and we don't have to pay $100 for you being here, go tomorrow. So then we end up leaving. Luckily, there wasn't a ton of traffic coming home. But to make a long story short, for which you interject too late. Hey, come on. He ended up going today, and they did once again ask him to go down the hill. He ended up getting a CAT scan, and the CAT scan, yay God, revealed that while it is a gigantic hernia, no question, It is not the emergency kind where it's like entangled with the bowels or, twisted or whatever. So he is set up for surgery, but we'll find out in a couple of days when that is. So prayers continued for Dale because he is Santa Claus, and even Santa Claus gets hurty sometimes, right? Anyway, so I'm stoked that it wasn't worse, and I'm thanking God to no end for that. Anyway, I kind of melted through my day today, but that's why I didn't have a video yesterday. We didn't get home until after 1 in the morning. Yeah, I know. And you'll go, well, Jules, you're always up till 1 in the morning. I am and I'm not. I mean, it's a little different when you've been out all day and on the road and gone since 6 a.m. That's different than hanging and playing at your computer till 1 or 2 or 3, right? Okay, anyway, for those of you who are here for my How'd You Heal Your Thyroid story, I'm so glad you asked. Wow, okay, so let me go back. So probably about 8 years ago, and I am 55, double nickels, dare I say out loud. So I'm 55. So yeah, somewhere around like 47 or so. Let's be fair, I was already a fat chick, right? I mean, I'm already well over 200 pounds. I'd even been 330 at one point. And so kind of the joke for all fat people is, well, is it a thyroid problem? Like everybody says, it's got to be your thyroid, right? And it's like, come on. Not everyone can actually have a thyroid condition, can they? And yet I'm finding out because of the kind of foods that we're eating these days, which are food-like products, right? And the standard American diet, that a lot more people do have thyroid trouble than they ever did. So anyway, to kind of humor the doctors, which I did all the time, I was like, yeah, whatever, go ahead, run your test. Well, they went ahead and did an ultrasound and they thought it looked a little suspicious. So then they went ahead and did the dye test, right? Where they like do a test. That's not called dye. It's with contrast, right? With contrast. So they went ahead and did the test with contrast, and it turned out that I indeed had a thyroid problem. And it was hypothyroid, which means a sluggish or slow one, right? Now, for most people, that would be a great excuse. You can continue eating and just tell the world, well, what can I do? I've got hypothyroidism, and I can prove it because here's the evidence from the doctor. Well, for me, it was like, yeah, that's not going to work. That's not going to work for me. What do we do to fix it? And what are the next steps? So they did give me levothyroxine, which was a very small dose. Okay, I don't know what people's doses are, and you have to know, not a doctor, can't diagnose, can't fix anything. I'm just sharing my story. I mean, honestly, people, a lot of people reached out wanting to know exacts. I can only share my hope and my story and encourage you, of course, to follow a doctor. So for me, I wasn't going to just ditch my thyroid medication without any permission, okay? I was going to do my plan, taper off, and then continue to get my blood drawn every 6 months, which I had to do anyway for many reasons, and see how it went. And so what happened was I went ahead and started reducing my thyroid medication, and the level remained the same, okay? And for the medication, it was like 50 milligrams, and you take the pill 45 minutes in the morning before you eat. Is this familiar? I'm sure it's familiar. But anyway, it was like 50 milligrams. And then over time, I got them to reduce it to like 37.5 milligrams. And I kind of, stayed in range. And the range is always low for me. And some people would want it higher because they feel like their thyroid would be more functioning. But for me, higher meant more medication, and that was a no, okay? So then by God's grace, and I'm going to mention Tannyraw. And if you haven't heard of Tannyraw, she is a health advocate on every social media platform. So you want to find Tannyraw if you can. But anyway, I came upon Tannyraw. And she was talking about natural iodine. And I was like, natural iodine? I've never heard of that. I never incorporated iodine, intentionally into my diet anyway. And by dye, I mean dye with a T on the end, okay? Because I had no health plan of any kind. Full-blown eat meter, full-blown sugar addict, full-blown no discipline, have whatever you want, whenever you want, okay? One of those Garfield people, life is short, eat dessert first. That was me. But I came upon Tannyraw, and over time, and again, this was just in the last couple of years, It'll literally be 3 years next month that I did my first what's called a raw reset. And if you go ahead and put in my search, Tannyraw reset, it'll tell you all about it. But I did the raw reset with no understanding of raw food at all. Kind of floundered my way through the month, but loved every bit of it. It was kind of a smorgasbord of picking and choosing whatever I could. And then it took another good 6 months before I even really ventured onto some kind of a plan. But anyway, one thing that she talked about was natural ways of getting iodine. So just one moment, please. Okay, so that really was just a second for you, but what I wanted to do was take a moment to show you some of the products. So I didn't want to be overly concerned. I knew that I wanted to get off of levothyroxine. I knew that I wanted to rotate natural iodine into my food. And Tannyraw absolutely teaches everything about how to make amazing dressings, amazing soups, amazing dips. And that in all of those, for the salty component, she largely chooses natural forms of iodine. And so I keep mentioning products online, but people don't actually know what they are. Now, I in no way expect you to run out and buy all of these. This was something that I got over time, and I actually use them. Don't get stuff just because it was recommended and it's just going to sit in your cupboard and die. Save your money, people. But these are things that I actually sprinkle about a teaspoon, okay, into everything. A teaspoon into my salad, into my soup, into my dips, every day. And I have continued to get my blood checked every 6 months for the last 2.5 years, and I have remained in range without any medication. What? I know. Partly God's grace and partly the discipline of incorporating natural iodine. Okay, so these are some of those products I talk about. So this one is called Wakame Seaweed, okay? Pacific Wakame Seaweed. And this is by Emerald Cove, which is just probably one of many brands. So what I do is I take it and I break it up really small because it comes in kind of funky little seaweed-like things. And I actually break it up. It says ready to use, and I sprinkle this into whatever. I'll even put it into like a greens smoothie, you know, something I don't expect to be exceptionally sweet. Okay, one of my favorites by far is Dulse Flakes, okay? Dulse Flakes. That's what I was talking about. I know it's backwards to you. But this is from Maine coast. It is called Sea Vegetables. Now, this isn't very cheap. I can't remember. It's like $26 or something, which freaked me out. But the thing is, they're just tiny little flakes, and they last forever, okay? And on a binge, I can easily spend $100. I can spend $26 in a, drive-through. Let's be fair. So at least this is saving my life. But all of these things can be found on Amazon. You can look them up. Okay, so these are just regular Dulse flakes, and they're these tiny little pretty flakes. Okay, one thing I accidentally did was I purchased, I wondered why it was so much cheaper. It was only like $14. I accidentally purchased, be careful, this was Dulse actual like sheets. It's like sheets of seaweed. So now that it's dry enough for me to break into little pieces again. So I can fully just break this up. I'm not really a seaweed girl. So sometimes when you're thinking, oh, I can't do that. You know what? There's a lot of things you can't do. You're going to have to think of it as medicinal. You're literally going to have to say, there was a ton of medications. Robitussin grossed you out. You gagged when your parents wanted you to take I don't even know, Tylenol. I don't know. But you're going to have to parent yourself and say, hey, this is saving my life. So yeah, I'm going to figure out how to incorporate it. Anyway, so much like the other one, I will just break this up and go ahead and sprinkle it into things like I do the others. Okay, another one I love to make, and I have a video on it, and you can put it in there, because it was a really clever gadget that I got for like $12 that taught me how to make perfect sushi. And of course, it's not fish. But I learned how to use cauliflower, and I made a really cute video. Just put it up in the search. Okay, so what I have for that are these dried nori wraps. And these nori wraps are certified organic dried nori wraps. And you get like 50 for $20. It's amazing. They're actually from the company Raw Vegan. And that is another way to get it in. So you guys, there's like a ton. Here's another great one. This is Spirulina. I really like Terrasoul. It's a great brand. And they always have a deal when you buy like 3 or 4 packs. And this spirulina is a blue-green algae, which again is something from the sea and will contain iodine. And lastly, and this one you got to be a little careful with, these are called kelp granules, and you actually just sprinkle them on the way you would pepper. Okay, so this is not something where you're going to measure out a full teaspoon or even a full tablespoon. It would be far too strong. But all of these, and you're like, again, Jules, I can't afford it all. You can't, and you shouldn't. Start with one. But because they last so long, you can add them, right? Yeah, you can add them over time. So seriously, I'll be getting my blood done again in August, because I do it once a year now. I'm finally getting to that point where I'm well enough to do that. I will get all my numbers in August, and I am trusting that I will once again find that I am still in range regarding my thyroid. In the event that I wasn't, if something changed and I couldn't maintain my thyroid, I would consider a small dose. I'm not going to not take medication. Like, as a Christian, I absolutely know that science and medicine is from God. But before science and medication is God's natural medication, which of course is the fruit, the vegetables, the healthy fats. So I always need to start with God's food. And in the event that something isn't functioning, it may be temporarily. I think the mistake is that a lot of doctors want clients instead of patients, right? So a patient is temporary. You take them, you help them heal, they move on their way. A client is a repeat customer. And in our society today, that's what they want, repeat customers. And I'll be talking about that in my next video, because I'm going to be talking about my mental health and how I chose to get off lithium. And I know that's an interesting one for a lot of people. And so I'm going to just continue. The next one will be on my migraines and how I got off of Imitrex and a lot of other things to heal those. So thank you so much for checking in, you guys. One more time, I'll put the stuff in the post below anyway, but dried nori from Raw Vegan, Dulse Flakes, and this is from the Maine coast, and I prefer the flakes, but you can get either one. And then also this is from Emerald Cove, the Wakame seaweed, so good. Spirulina, a favorite of mine for blue-green algae. And then just the kelps. And all of that could help you out. So let me know how it goes and where you are in your journey. Like if you like, join us if you haven't, subscribe. Let me know in the comments below how I can support you. And until we talk again, best of all, know that you are blessed.